Hello, everyone, and welcome to Quadrant 4 Politics, the podcast where we discuss politics and have fun while we're doing it. I'm here with my co-host, Matt. Say hello, Matt.
Hello, Matt.
And also in the room is my cat, Mystic. He will be joining us today. You might be hearing him a little bit. He likes to meow, so just heads up about that. He's already attacking Matt, so
well, I'm provoking him. Ouch, you bastard. Ow, that one hurt.
He will bite, watch out. All right. So without further ado, this is our podcast. We talk about politics and have fun while we're doing it. Thanks for checking it out. Leave a comment in the comment section on YouTube or send us an email at quadrant4politics@gmail.com. That's the number 4, not spelled out. Watch out, he will kill you. But send us a comment with a question that you want us to answer on the show. We would be happy to, and honestly, that's what we would prefer to do. But without further ado, let's answer some random questions that we found online. Matt, do you want to... You are just getting attacked by the cat.
That would have hurt.
We're doing a podcast right now, bro.
Okay, sorry. I'll leave the cat alone. It's just
No
so
worries.
precious. I'm a cat person, everybody, so...
So, do you want to start with the political compass test or the I side with questions?
You can choose.
Let's do the I side with. I'm always a fan of those. There you go. While Matt's choosing those, I'll do my obligatory. This is the questions from the I Side With test, isidewith.com. And we don't condone the test, but it offers some interesting questions that are fun to answer on the podcast. So Matt is taking his sweet time choosing the question. Don't let him spill all over the ground.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got the question. Are you ready for this one?
I'm stoked.
Okay.
He likes to eat plastic, too, so keep the bags.
Oh, I already know your freaking answer for the... Oh, I know my answer for this, too.
What is it?
Should the federal government increase funding of health care for low-income individuals? Parentheses, Medicaid.
Is that what Medicaid is?
Funding for low-income individuals, yeah. I think my mom's on Medicaid.
Medicaid and Medicare are confusing for me. Honestly, the healthcare industry is really confusing for me. So, this is why I never state to be a professional when it comes to political discussion, because I'm uneducated about a lot of this kind of stuff. So, Medicare and Medicaid are something that really confuse me. And there's a lot of issues with the health insurance company or with the health care in our country. So, what's your answer to this question? It's yes or no.
Well, sometimes the question is, should you increase funding? And you got to take into account what the funding already is. And I'm not sure about that, but the government pumping money into healthcare sounds like the government getting their hands on healthcare. Sorry to be the libertarian this time. And that's the last thing I want them to have their hands on, especially because I use my healthcare a lot. And I think that is better done through employers. Of course, I've mentioned before, I do think as a term I often use, as a rational society, we need to take care of people who can't take care of themselves, such as, highly disabled people, people who actually can't work, not the ones who don't choose to work. I don't necessarily think the government needs to pump more money into that. We had a question last time that also had something to do with federal funding or funding of some sort, and I said I'd rather us move money from one category to the other. So, I don't have the government checkbook out in front of me right now, but I would say that, people usually want something for their investment, and that would include the government. That's going to mean they're going to want to muddy it up, and I'm not in support of that. So my answer would be no.
Let me read the question again. It says, should the federal government increase funding on health care for low-income individuals? And then in parentheses, it says Medicaid. And I would say no. I personally think that the healthcare industry should be a capitalist industry. I think that will be better if it's deregulated quite a bit. And, we have an issue with paying for things and no... it's really hard to become a doctor, so there's like a lack of doctors in the country. If we bring them in from other countries, or just we don't have enough kind of thing. I think we could deregulate it by quite a bit, make it easier to get a license, make the medical billing side of it a lot easier and stuff like that. Overall, I would prefer that it became a more free market capitalist industry, because I think that we would have more innovation in the industry, more advancements, and I think that the bills would be cheaper for us overall, and it would just be, like, to be honest, healthcare in this country is so fucking frustrating and annoying, and it's stressful, and no one likes it. Not a single person in this country is happy with the healthcare industry. And my preference would be just make it a free market capitalist industry. But honestly, at this point, I would be accepting of a socialist system, completely single payer, and that single payer is the government, because at this point, it's so bad, I just want them to go one way or the other. Like I said, my preference would be a free market capitalist version of it, but at this point, I really don't give a fuck, because I'm so tired and annoyed of the healthcare industry in this country that if the Democrats take over, and then at least I can hope that they make a decision about that and it's not my problem anymore. Because even though I think a socialized version of healthcare will be worse, I think that it will be a lot less, if I get hit by a truck or get cancer or something like that, I'm not going to exit the hospital with just millions of dollars in bills, because it's honestly really fucking scary, and it's, that's the situation that we're in right now. And while I would prefer a free market capitalized version of it, I'll take a socialized version as well. I'm not saying I would prefer that, and I would vote against it, but at this point I just want it figured out. Go one way or the other,
Considering your cat's about to kill me, and what my hospital bill could end up being,
you're trying to get him to attack you so you can sue me.
Exactly, it happened on your premises. Not a fan of the socialized medicine idea, because, again, I don't know why I'm taking the libertarian position here, but I think,
I'm not a fan of it either. I just wanted to choose something, because where we are right now sucks.
What do you mean choose something?
Go one way or the other. Make it free market capitalism version.
Well, that's how the whole world is. I mean, it's all in between. It's give and take, buddy. It's both sides.
Yeah, but, other, more liberal countries like Canada and a lot of the European countries have single-payer healthcare, or at least they have it a little bit more socialized, way more than we have it. But
yeah, and there's benefits to that, but there's also drawbacks. And
I'm not I'm not trying to defend it, but I'm just saying I'm tired where we are right now, and I just wish they would choose one way or the other. Like, if we lived in a society where everything else was a free market and capitalism, except for we had really socialized healthcare, I would probably be okay with that.
Well, just remember, with socialized anything, somebody pays for it, and if you don't know who,
it will be taxes for sure, but if I have to pay taxes and I don't ever have to worry about big, expensive medical bills, then I guess that's the way it has to be. And I know that's weird hearing that from me, taxation is definitely libertarian, but I'm fucking tired of it, and I wish they would just choose, of all the things to be socialized, healthcare is the only one I could see making sense. And I'm not saying it makes sense, I'm saying just choose a fucking direction, because where we are right now is miserable.
I mean, I have an insurance plan that I won't ever pay more than $5,000 out of pocket in any given year if I get hit by a truck or whatever you're talking about. So I think if we could get more people on to their own plans, which is something Obamacare attempted very poorly to do, because I was looking at the rates the other day, because I'm about to have a lapse in my own insurance. Cross my fingers nothing happens while that takes place, but the deductibles and the out-of-pocket costs are just crazy. One side where I probably differ with you is I usually am not a fan of government regulation either, but I think something needs to be done about prescription prices. For example, there was a meme going around a couple years ago about a guy turned 25 to 26, got off his parents' medical insurance. It was a meme, it was also a story. And he started trying to ration out his insulin. Mm-hmm. And he ended up dying. And in a rational society, and in America, I don't think anybody should die because they don't have insulin,
Yeah.
If we're talking about an 80-year-old who it's going to be a $5 million procedure to save their life because their liver's failing or something, that's a different story. not saying old people's lives aren't valuable. I'm not that type of person. But I'm saying there's a certain point where things are reasonable and things aren't. And if I had to pay for my own prescriptions out of pocket every month, it'd be about, probably $2,000 to $2,500 each month. And that's just not reasonable for a person, for the everyday person. So I don't think there's a reason why a pill that it takes less than a cent to manufacture needs to be sold for $50.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's reasons behind that, and a part of it is regulation, which is, I won't go too much into it because we all know what it is, and I think that regulation could be seriously brought down. I think we're over-regulating the industry, and it doesn't need to be regulated that much. I mean, we want to be able to, when we go to the doctor, we want to, expect that they're a accredited doctor and that they've passed all their tests and they're someone that we can trust with our health care, but to the point where medicine and healthcare, the doctors themselves and nurses and stuff like that, it's just ridiculous. All the loopholes you have to go through. A poor family can't afford putting their child through 12 years of education and then 5 years of internship, unpaid internship after that. It's nonsense, and so that's ridiculous. And also patents. There's a lot of patents on those pills, which is really stupid because a patent is essentially, the definition of a patent is pretty much a government-enforced monopoly. This is telling one person, you own the patent to insulin, so you're the only one who can make insulin, so you own the monopoly on it, so you can raise the prices however you want. But if we got rid of the patent for insulin, then we could have a whole bunch of different people making and selling insulin, and then we could have, you can just buy it on store shelves instead of having to have a prescription and stuff like that,
Well, and that's what, that's how generic medications are, is there's you have a lot of different manufacturers, but for most prescriptions, I think that whoever made it has 20 years to where before a generic can be made, and that's when the prices are super high, and that's
realistically, I'm in favor of short-term patents, but we can thank Disney for it that patents have just been extended to oblivion. There's no reason why Mickey Mouse shouldn't be in the free realm, however that's called, copyright-free realm.
Why? It was somebody's idea, just like that medicine was somebody's idea.
Yeah, but the person who created it died a long time ago.
So your rights don't extend past death?
No, I don't think so.
If you were...
I would disagree with that. I think once you die, you shouldn't have any rights anymore.
So what if somebody dies with a secret, though? That secret is open to the public.
I mean,
we're getting a little existential here.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you're going to be like,
and
well, nothing happens, it doesn't matter.
It's not on the subject of healthcare either, but...
well, what happens after death is kind of...
I think that, a secret is different than a patent and IP, intellectual property, and making a profit. There's no reason why he needs to pass that profit onto his company.
Okay, so
he's dead already.
Let's talk then. What about a 30-year-old who finds the cure for cancer?
Right.
How much should he be allowed to charge for this one-time cancer curing medication?
I just think that, there can be more innovation in the industry if we don't have patents, and then people can... I support intellectual property to the point, if someone creates the exact same thing, then that's wrong. I think that, not even that. Honestly, intellectual property is something that I struggle with as a libertarian myself. I think that patents are just bad just because they're a government-forced monopoly. And I think that that's what we're seeing, with that Martin Shkreli guy who, bought the medicine that a lot of HIV users use. He's vaping on the podcast right now.
Nobody could hear that.
I think they could.
That was the cat.
Yeah, it was the cat taking a giant toke off the vape.
Hey, toke, I'm not doing drugs, buddy. I think we've kind of talked about healthcare before. I don't think we're experts in it. I think we just have a general idea of...
All we know is that the system that we have right now is awful.
Yeah, but every system's awful because that's what it... when it comes to, life-saving medications or even medications that will greatly increase your quality of life, there's it's like asking for a perfect system, and there's just not going to be one. We can work on ways to make the system better.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little mix of not socialized, but I think definitely, saying you can't withhold an EpiPen from somebody about to die at the pharmacy counter because they don't have the money to pay for it.
Yeah.
Not saying we should have a system where we just give it out, but people shouldn't be dying because they don't have their EpiPens, because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
We need a system better than that. And, also, of course, there can be different things for different, depending on how much one needs the prescription, if or the procedure, like I don't care if breast implants cost $500,000 because that's not a required surgery, but people shouldn't be dying over small things. So that's my opinion.
What's your opinion on fake boobs versus real boobs?
I mean, how noticeable? Like, how much can you tell?
You can. I feel like I can always tell. With
no,
fake
I'm
boobs.
saying like, let me rephrase this. Like, am I able to tell they're fake boobs?
When she's naked, yeah.
Well, then you got other stuff to worry about. So, anyway, we're getting off topic here.
I prefer real boobs. Real boobs all the way.
I think it's just.
I would prefer saggy real boobs over fake big boobs.
What about fake immaculate ones?
I don't like fake boobs. I don't like the scars. I don't like the way they don't sag naturally. It's just, it kills my boner, to be honest.
That's gross. So you're worried about a little scar that can't even be seen under the tit, but no problem with like stretch marks or anything? Or...
The stretch marks don't bother me.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I have stretch marks on my stomach. I'm real insecure about them. So.
There was a real cool tattoo of a girl who got a tattoo on her stretch marks to make them look black, and it looked like thunder on her stretch marks.
That's pretty cool.
It was badass, yeah. Watch out with the table. It's hitting the desk here, so it might be loud on the mic. I bitch a lot.
You do. You do. About a lot.
I bitch about fake titties. Anyways, let's move on. Did you have anything else to say about healthcare?
Were we talking about that before the fake boobs?
I don't know. I can't even remember at this point. I had a question for you, Matt, that I think is important to modern day society. It feels like, we're not super old, so we haven't been around, we weren't around in the 80s or 70s or 60s, but it seems like recent day and age, recent era, especially since 2016 or 2015, there's been a strong political divide in our country. Just like, from what I hear, back in the day, Republicans and Democrats were a lot more friendly with each other, and also there were more Republican-leaning Democrats, and there were some Democrat-leaning Republicans and stuff like that. I heard, like, politics wasn't such a vile, discussion, and there weren't Republicans wearing shirts that I'd rather be a Russian than a Democrat, and there weren't Democrats saying, oh, I'd never be friends with a Republican. It just feels like the divide in our country is so extreme. Do you think we will ever get past that? Do you think that that's special because of Trump, or do you think that this is our future for America and it's just going to get worse from here?
Let me answer the second part first. Is it special because of Trump? No, he certainly doesn't help the situation, but it's been a problem that predates Trump a little bit, and especially when you think about along the same line of thought, race relations. The topic kind of got more increasingly brought up, ironically, during the Obama administration. And especially, and a lot of that has to do with police shootings and whatnot. But I think the divide is going to stick around somewhat, and it's not one party's fault or the other. It's the inability to see another person for other than their politics or their worldview. Ultimately, the root cause is selfishness, as we see ourselves as the center of the world. And we talked before about that South Park episode of the atheists and whatnot, and you said how it was about three different religions or whatnot.
It was about Muslim, Judaism, and Christianity.
And I said my take on it, whether or not this is what they got from it, was that we're always going to find something to fight about.
Yeah.
And I don't think right now we're heading in a direction where we're all going to be singing Kumbaya in a circle.
But in the past, would you agree, from what you've heard since before you were born, would you agree that things weren't as bad back then?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So do you think we'll ever get to a place like that again, or do you think we're heading towards a civil war?
I don't think we're necessarily heading towards a civil war, especially because the difference with a civil war is that you had major differences of thought based on the North and the South, what part of the country you're in. I mean, you can go find your neighbor across the street right now, and they might have a different bumper sticker than you do, you know? So a civil war at this point means an all-out war in the streets, and I don't think that's as likely or reasonable.
You don't think if Trump had lost in 2016 that there would have been a violent outreach from the Trump supporters, you know, claiming that it was a rigged election and that, you know, it was, as he said, you know, it was rigged and he shouldn't have lost and stuff like that? Do you think there would have been violence because of that?
No,
or do you
because
think they would have accepted it?
I think 99% of people, including most Trump supporters, expected Trump to lose. That was one of the biggest, upsets in presidential election history.
I don't know, man. Trump he's a cult leader. Like, the people who follow him and believe every word he says are really scary, to be honest.
That's true, but I don't know that they would have gotten that power without him in power, I guess. I think Trumpism would have died down, and had it been reversed and Hillary had won by the margin he won in the Electoral College, I think at some point even, you know, rednecks with their MAGA hats on would have been like, okay, we can't call this rigged, you know? Unless every state was decided by 1%, but, you know, that wasn't the case, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there were close states, but he clearly had the numbers in his favor when it came to the Electoral College.
Do you think the political divide will ever get better then? Do you think we'll ever learn, or do you think we've hit this, liberals are focused on PC culture to the extreme and Republicans are just focused on hating Democrats? Like, at this point in the Democratic Party, if you even, they don't even allow moderates, you know? Of all the people who are running for president, even before, when we were at its peak of the most people running, the people who were the most moderate in the Democratic Party were the people who polled the least, you know? It's surprising that Pete Buttigieg is doing so well. Considering
he's
pretty moderate.
More moderate. Yeah. I mean, he's moderate of the ones that are up there. I wouldn't consider him moderate. But, I can't predict the future, and I don't want to eat my words later, but I think the divide predates Trump a little bit, and I think the 2020 election is going to divide us more, and depending on who wins that, so will the 2024 one. And so we're talking long way in the future. And if this culture war continues, and from my personal standpoint, if the PC people can't get off their pretentious asses and, you know, take a joke, then we're all kind of doomed. So,
well, the Republicans are to blame as well, not just the liberals. I think the Republicans make a lot of shitty I mean, they're not even sticking to conservative values at this point.
But that's why I don't blame them as much anymore, because it used to be they were anti-pot, anti-gay people, all this stuff that, I mean, maybe they somewhat still are, but it's not their forefront cause. And now they're not the extremists. Now it's become that, you know, it used to be they were the extremists because you could compare them to Hitler because they hated everybody, whatnot. Now it's like, you know, you have these peaceful protests where Antifa's burning, you know, flags and whatnot and blocking streets. And, you know, then you got the people on the other side too. And I don't know. I don't know if it's going to get better, but...
You know how we can stop Antifa from blocking streets? Privatize the roads, then they're trespassing, then they can be shut. Moving on.
That's stupid.
Let's do a question from the Political Compass test. Go ahead and pick one, Matt. For those of you who don't know, if you're tuning in for the first time today, they are randomly selected questions. And this one is from the Political Compass test. You can find it on Google pretty easily.
We've based our podcast off how they're set up.
The name, yes, of our podcast, but we don't agree with the Political Compass test, and maybe one day when we sit down and have some time, we'll make our own.
Oh, I had a thought about that, but I'll share that with you later.
You can say it on the show. Okay,
my thought was that instead of remaking our own, why don't we just correct the questions that they've written in a...
Well, I think one of the reasons why the Political Compass test is not good is because it misses a lot of questions. Like, it doesn't talk about immigration at all.
That's true. But also some of their questions you can't...
Yeah, some of the questions are just batshit crazy.
Well, they're just poorly written, so...
How would you yes, no, deny, ain't, thal, yeah? Sometimes it feels like they're written that way. Like double negatives all over the place. There were 4 double negatives in that question. I have no idea what it says.
Well, I think this one's straightforward.
Sorry for all the noise, by the way. Matt dropped the question, so we all had to...
I gave you an opportunity to pick it up and be able to read it, despite me.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Despite
I wasn't going to take that away from you, Matt.
Yeah.
I know that means a lot.
No, I just like grabbing it. Reading them's not necessarily that great.
Do you want me to read it?
No, that's fine. I got it now.
Can you read, Matt?
On this, I've said before, I don't usually... the answers are strongly disagree, agree, strongly
for these ones,
agree.
Yeah.
Yes, for the Political Compass ones. I don't usually do strongly. On this one, I am going to do strongly.
Ooh.
Watch
out.
That's right. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society support.
Ooh. Yeah. Man, I'm going to get real dark on this one. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. I'm going to go first on this one because I have a real-life situation I want to tell people. This is going to get real dark here. Get ready, guys.
You're always pretty dark. I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, this is why I listen to death metal.
Are you is this going to be a morbid answer?
A little bit, yeah. Oh, well, not really. I mean, you and I are going to have the same answer on this. If you're able to work and...
You and I have a lot of the same answers for vastly different reasons.
That's true,
Which is why
let me see. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. I strongly agree with that. And let me tell you why. My mother was a heavy alcoholic. She was an alcoholic my entire life.
And is she still with us?
No, alcohol is what killed her. And let me tell you why. I blame the government for my mom's death entirely. My mom got low-income housing for no reason at all. I think the reason why she got low-income housing was because she was an alcoholic. Like, somehow being an alcoholic was able to put her on disability and make her qualify for low-income housing. And then she lost her job. But she was still able and willing to work. It's just that actually Obamacare made her lose her job because she was a full-time employee at a retirement home, and they didn't want to give her health insurance because of Obamacare, so they just flat out fired her. So there's the government making my mom lose her job. Second of all, actually it wasn't a retirement home. She was actually working at a thrift store, which is pretty interesting. And then, so she got fired from her job because of Obamacare, because the job didn't want to give her health insurance, so they just flat out fired her. Then she had low-income housing and disability checks coming from the government. So her rent, because she did not have a job, was $25 a month, and she was getting paid $812 a month from the government. So that was $25 taken away from $812, and then she had $700 and whatever left to just spend on alcohol and drink all day long every single day instead of finding a job. But if she had not qualified for low-income housing, if low-income housing didn't exist, and if she didn't get disability checks, she would have been forced to work. And she wanted to work, but because she was offered the opportunity by government to not have to work, she drank herself to death. So yes, you can put the personal responsibility on my mom for drinking herself to death. You know, she should have been responsible and found herself a new job. The fact of the matter is when government offers the opportunities for people to not work, the people are going to take it up whether they're responsible or not, because it's like, you know, if the government was paying my rent, then yeah, I would spend all day making YouTube videos instead of having an actual job and contributing to society. But, you know, it's real dumb.
I'm trying to think, if I was given the opportunity not to work and just have my way paid for, which isn't exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about getting these people barely by. But still, my answers, of course, strongly agree, because we don't need to give money to people who aren't going to help us out or help themselves out. We're ultimately feeding into their own problems. And actually, the way somebody I know once put it was that a lot of the times these social programs are helping people fund their own poverty, and I think that's ultimately what they're doing. And if I was given the chance, I think I might just not work.
Yeah.
So I think that's,
Well, I mean, that's what you're seeing in Seattle and Seattle, where we live, and San Francisco as well, is you see these huge homeless populations, and it's like the homeless are allowed to camp under the highway, which is, if the highway was privately owned, they wouldn't be allowed to camp there because it's private property, unless the highway owner was nice enough. But, they wouldn't want their highway looking trashy like it does right now, so they wouldn't allow that. Honestly, I hate going to Seattle because of all the homeless tents out there. And they're just like... There's so many homeless outreach programs, which I support private charities, but there's so many opportunities to homeless people that there's no need for them to work. If you're okay with camping 24/7, then it's like, just be homeless, and they don't even care about getting themselves out of that situation. They just want to be homeless because they're getting such a sweet ride. And, in Seattle, it's a little bit harder because of the weather up here, but in San Francisco, the weather down there is beautiful 365 days a year. And
it's kind of cold in San Francisco, but okay.
Well... It's really sunny day. I don't know if you've ever been to San Francisco before. It's beautiful down there.
It was cold. It was the middle of summer. It's cold because they have a bay by them.
Yeah, but that's the reason why it's so nice, is because it's really sunny like the rest of California, but because they got the bay and all the wind, it keeps it so it's not that hot. So it's pretty comfortable to be outside. You don't feel like in other parts of California you're just fucking miserable because you're sweaty and it's muggy and shit like that. But San Francisco is beautiful, and I can understand wanting to be homeless there. It's like... Fuck, I've thought about it myself. They have so many homeless programs, and it's like, it'd be easy to get your phone recharged. You see homeless people with cell phones these days.
The government gives out cell phones now,
yeah,
if you're poor enough.
And it's just like, I don't know, man. It's real dumb. It's these people...
This is why we have people turning in applications and getting interviews and not showing up to their interview, because it's a way they can keep... that it's
getting unemployment. Yeah.
The last job I had, my boss suspected that there was somebody not showing up to work so they could stay under a certain amount of hours to keep whatever their benefits were. And ultimately, if we help people get out of the situation instead of funding their situation, I'm a little more okay with that. If we're talking about getting people with a low work ethic into a situation to where, hey, we're going to help you build up your work ethic, and then we're going to cut the umbilical cord and set you free. Like, I'm a little more okay with that, even though we're still giving money to people doing nothing. But right now, these programs are just funding people's poverty, and they're funding their bad decisions. And I think your mom's a good example. And
well, it's
I don't understand people, like... I'm trying to think like how a hardcore liberal could even agree with this one, because the question says...
If they're able,
yeah. It's about being able and unwilling, know? And you give somebody that opportunity, they're going to take it.
A lot of people look at Republicans and libertarians as just like giving poor people the middle finger, like, fuck you, we only care about the rich people. But that's not the way it is at all. Like... I've seen a couple memes where it's like libertarians and Republicans giving poor people the middle finger, but I've also seen memes supporting libertarians and Republicans saying, like, poor people are in this, like, giant well in the ground, and us libertarians and Republicans are just trying to give them a ladder, and each step on the ladder is, like, entry-level job, smaller apartments, like lower quality apartments. So instead of offering socialized programs where it's like, oh, here's a job that, pays well and you don't deserve it, we're just going to give you one of these jobs and then you're going to do a half-assed job at it and you're barely going to show up. And also, here's an apartment for free. We're trying to say, in a free market capitalist society, there are jobs that don't require any skills, and so that anyone can get them, fast food or something like that, just as an entry-level job so you can get your feet on the ground. And then we want to offer apartments that are small and, run down, maybe don't have all the run down isn't a good word, but maybe like don't have all the modern accessories that are available, stuff like that. It's like we want to offer them ways that if they just try a single little bit, then they can get by. But then you have,
and it can be incentive to get more as well, you know.
But it's like it's housing is one of my biggest issues with our society today, and a lot of the housing issues is because of big government ideas, regulations, like telling in Seattle there's the Showbox, which is a concert venue that they're trying to turn into a historic landmark because a real estate developer from Canada wants to buy it and turn it into a luxury apartment complex. A luxury apartment complex, yes, those are going to be more expensive, but they're opening up housing and making the demand better for the supply in the area, so rent prices will overall come down. But the Democrats in the area are like, no, we want to turn this into a historic landmark because we like our concerts and our culture. And it's like, no, fuck that. In Japan, they have a completely capitalized free market. Not completely, but it's a lot better than ours. And yeah, they live in apartments that are real tiny, but those apartments are like $500 a month. I would happily live in a small, tiny apartment by myself if I could. But because of the way society, like our system is set up in this country, it's like you have to have a car because the residential areas are farther away from the business areas. So you have to have a car to get to your job. You have to. We Americans like to live a big lifestyle. We like to go to Costco, have lots of children, and buy a bunch of buy stuff in bulk, buy lots of product at a single time, take it home to our big apartment, and like we have these standards that we have made for ourselves.
The American dream.
The American dream,
which is stupid.
And it's like, now I can't afford this crappy 2-bedroom apartment by myself. I have to have roommates, and even then I'm barely cutting the bills, and it's bullshit, to be honest. I need to, if we had more apartments and less regulations to build those apartments, and if society would understand, hey, living in these smaller apartments would totally be okay, like tiny houses and shit like that, then we'd be better off, and we wouldn't be such a struggle on our bills because we wouldn't have to pay as much, because we'd be like, just lower our expectations from like these grandiose American dream expectations from the 60s and earlier, and just lower them a little bit. And it's like, the American dream for us millennials is like, man, I wish I could afford a 1-bedroom apartment, and we can't even do that. I have a lot to say about the housing industry in this country, and it's like, I understand that the economy is better, but it sucks that I can't get my own apartment. It's real frustrating for me.
Well, what if you just tried harder?
Well, trying harder would like...
What if you tried to get a better job that paid more?
Yeah, I mean, trying harder would essentially mean going to college.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, trying harder puts my... I'd have to give up my happiness to try harder. Essentially, trying harder would be like moving up and going to management and be willing to work salary, because all the jobs that I can get without a college degree that are available to me, especially because I don't have a car and I do have to walk to work, all the jobs that are available to me within walking distance are, if I want to move up, I pretty much have to go into a salary position. I'm working 50 hours a week. I don't like my life enough to work 50 hours a week. It's like working 40 hours is like I barely get enough free time as is. I'm not going to give my job 10 more hours to get a little bit more money to afford an apartment that I can't spend my free time at, So it's like, well, I don't know. I just don't value life enough to try harder at this point. I know you don't value life. And I'm trying hard enough. It's not like I'm a bad employee. You've worked with me before. I do my job. I work hard. I show up on time. I wear the uniform and stuff like that. And it's like, I should be able to get by with that. I'm a hard worker, But
what if you went into a more blue collar industry that?
I mean, you say it like it's easy to get into those, but it's not.
I mean, my brother works on ships and makes he does maintenance and construction and shit like that, like the hard, heavy work, and he makes good money. Mm. And it's work I'm not willing to do. My sister even asked me the other
I'd
day,
be willing to do something like that, but those jobs, a lot of times those jobs are like, you have to know someone to get them.
I mean, you have to just be willing to work your ass off, which I'm not. So
I don't know, man. I mean, I've looked for those jobs before, and I can't find them.
Well, that's because you're looking from a city where everybody's here for corporate business.
That's true. Yeah. And also because I don't have a car, but it's like I can't afford a car.
Most people can live more than 3 miles away like you.
Yeah.
You can't afford a car.
I can't afford a car, no.
You can't make the monthly payment on it.
Look, I have savings enough that I can...
Some of these I'm asking as devil's advocate.
No, I know, for
sure. Why don't you try harder,
No, my monthly income does not offer me enough to own a car. I have enough savings I could pay off a car, but that doesn't make any sense if I can't keep paying it after that, And And it's just not worth it to, like, if I lose my job for whatever reason, I want to be able to have a cloud to fall back on. So, I can be unemployed for a while and not be worried about every single bill because I'm responsible.
That's why what I do is I try to be good at my job. That way when layoffs come around, which has never really happened when I've worked before.
Yeah.
But I know that if somebody's going to go, it's not going to be me because I'm good.
Yeah.
And, everybody loves me. So, kind of got off topic because you're talking about your housing and your personal bitching about stuff. But
I bitch a lot. What can I say?
You do. But
I love bitching. That's what someone said. The libertarian ideology is just a child saying, "Daddy, I don't wanna," turned into a political ideology.
That's somewhat accurate. Yes.
Yeah. I struggle with authority so much.
But what I was saying earlier, I can't even get into the mindset of somebody who wants to, like, who can say they strongly disagree with that. Like, do you know where somebody could come from with that? Like,
so the question was, those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Someone who would disagree with that, who are able to work and refuse the opportunity. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good...
I'm trying to think of people like at Berkeley getting their college education and smoking pot and just thinking that's reasonable, but I can't even do that,
I think a far left person would say, they just want to do their art.
I guess we can throw that out to our viewers. If you can answer why somebody would say they strongly agree we should support people who are willing but unable...
Yeah.
Which is different than unable.
Yeah.
Let us know, because I'd love to hear.
If you can find a reason why you would disagree with the statement.
Even if it's one that, like, you're not going to agree with. I just want to hear the reasoning on why we should help people who don't want to help themselves.
They want to do charity? they are non-profit.
All right, well, let's wrap this, buddy.
All right, thank you guys so much for listening to Quadrant 4 Politics. We really appreciate you sticking around. Hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Oh, I forgot to say what platforms we're on. I worked so hard on getting us on like 1 million platforms, and I forgot to say it. Well, we're on YouTube, and we're on Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, and all that good stuff. And Anchor. I should promote Anchor because they're the ones who are... Anchor is the one who's allowing us to do all of this. Anchor is the one where I upload the audio file to them, and then they do all the hard work of getting it put on all the other services. So
really?
Special shout out to Anchor, because you can listen on Anchor, which has an app and a website. And it's a pretty slick looking website, to be honest. I haven't seen the app. Also, we can record on Anchor, which is pretty cool. If we ever move away from each other, we can record podcasts on Anchor together.
I already told you I'm not doing that, Chris.
I know. We're going to live together always.
That's not what I meant. I meant I'm not recording from a distance. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.